down. Oh, wow, we are live. Shalom, everyone. It is Thursday. I know, right? Don't mind us. We just have fun behind the scenes. It is Thursday, and it's a live episode of Race Matters every Thursday at 7 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have a wonderful episode for you tonight. A lot of conversations going to be had. Unfortunately, it's not the conversation that we want to have, but it's a necessary conversation that we have to have regarding the school shootings, mass school shootings, and how the educators are dealing with it, what's happening with the student body. And we have an educator here today. She's a principal, she's an administrator at Cherry Hill West and previously at Dobbins in Philadelphia. So she has first-hand knowledge about how these mass shootings are affecting the schools in today. So we're going to get into that conversation with Dr. Toni, myself, and my co-host Mariana and Rosie. Welcome, Dr. Toni Damon, to the show. Welcome, Dr. Damon.
Welcome, Dr. Damon. Welcome back.
No, thank you for having me back.
So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and so then we can get rolling right into the conversation.
Okay, so as you said, my name is Dr. Toni Damon. I've been in education now for about 28 years. I am a career and technical education administrator. I started out in Delaware County in Chester as a cosmetology teacher, stayed there for about 10 years. Then I went to the Delaware County Intermediate Unit and worked with the technical schools. Then moved to Montgomery County and worked there with the technical schools. Then I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia at Morrell Dobbins CTE High School, where I had a lot of fun there. And now after the pandemic, I find myself at Cherry Hill High School West, and I am absolutely loving things here, love the community, and I hope to end my career here.
Okay. So there's no superintendent in your future, possibly?
You know, let me just say, I absolutely love the children. I love this work. Our superintendent actually came to have a town hall with a group of kids today. And he even said, you know, sometimes, you miss the kids. And so, I mean, I hope to end right here, actually.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you'll have what it is that you want because you have carved out a path for yourself, as
Yes,
you told
you
us the
have.
first show you were on. And even though some things weren't so much intentional, right? But it has happened and you've done an awesome job. And we want to be, if no one else tells you, we here at Race Matters want to tell you that.
Thank you.
So Rosie or Mariana, can one of you share with the audience, or before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, please subscribe to the channel, like the page, put any comments and questions that you have in the feed so we can answer your questions if we can. And don't forget to like the video. So Rosie or Mariana, share a little bit of background information about what happened in Texas with the school, and then we'll begin to share with questions with Dr. Toni.
Okay, well, I'll share a little bit. As you all know, we had another mass shooting at an elementary school by a young man who unfortunately turned 18 and purchased weapons. On his birthday, he purchased the weapons. And I'm not sure why the argument with his grandmother started, and but he did put on Facebook or whatever his social media was that he was going to, first he said, I'm going to shoot my grandmother. Then he got on there and said, I shot my grandmother. And then he said, I'm going to go shoot up a elementary school. And stole his grandmother's pickup truck, raced toward the school, shot past officers that were at the school. I mean, that's what's so sad. There were already some armed forces, whether it was security and police, but he had enough powerful weapon. That AR-15 was so powerful that he moved them right out of his way and was able to walk into the school. So that's the amount that I know to share. I don't know if Mariana has any extra to add to it. Mariana?
Yeah, one thing that I heard is like he crashed his car near the school. I think that's when the interactions with the police started, and they chased him, but he had body armor. So I guess that's how he was able to continue what he did. And finding out today that the police were waiting for backup for a really long time before they actually entered the school. So between the time they were engaging in this chasing with him and when he died, after he, killed all these other little kids and teachers, though at least 40 minutes had passed.
Yeah, 40 whole minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my understanding there's an investigation underway that, and this is just from me watching news. So, I'm assuming, and this is professional, law enforcement saying that when there's an active shooter in situations such as this, at a school, you don't wait, you go in. So that's why there's an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Why they waited. And 40 whole, I mean, listen, people can die in seconds, right? Especially with high powered, weapons. So, and there was parents and people pleading for them to go in, is my understanding. So this is going to be a big problem in how law enforcement has responded based on that delay, that 40-minute delay. So, and there was 19 children?
Yes, 19 now.
2 adults, I believe.
Yes.
And so there are several more who are wounded, and hopefully, prayerfully, they will recover. But that's the situation that we're dealing with right now. So, Dr. Toni, unfortunately, this has happened more than once. One is more than enough. Absolutely. And so, this is a problem in America specifically. And I say that for a point, because this doesn't happen like this anywhere else. And so one of the questions we have for you is, as an educator and an administrator educator, what are you seeing and what have you seen, because you didn't just become an educator, around this issue of mass shootings and how it is being dealt with in the schools, at least what you know of it?
So the first thing that I want to do is I want to give kudos to our law enforcement partners, and I call them partners because across the country, I'm certain, but what I do know of is Philadelphia, and also now here I'm in Camden County and Cherry Hill. We partner with our law enforcement. When I was in Philadelphia, we had close relationship with the Philadelphia Police Department. We had school resource officers that were connected. They would sit right outside our school. And this was the entire 9 years that I was there. We would have cell phone exchange numbers, and we would collaborate regularly. We would even have drills. All schools are required to have drills. Just like we have fire drills, we have these lockdown drills, lock-in drills. I mean, you name it, we do it. And so we've been doing so many for all year long. You're required to have a number of them. I can say here in Cherry Hill, we have had several. I'm really excited to say that we partner with the Cherry Hill Police Department because we even have a police club. Okay. And so they come in and they educate our children about a variety of things. Matter of fact, just this week, we had session during the lunch break. We had 30 to 40 kids come out, and the topic was around mental health. We had, I think it was Officer Amato came in and he talked about, just mental health, de-stressing yourself, because a lot of these challenges we face are because the young people don't know how to deal with the mental health. And so they go up and they do things that are unconscionable. What I can tell you is that for years now, each school district, they have chief of police. They train school administrators. I remember being in Philadelphia and working with Temple University as a principal on how to stop bleeding, right? For a mass shooting. If you have a child that's bleeding because they were shot, we were trained in measures in how to, stop or reduce the bleeding. We've worked with school police chiefs to learn how to operate, and the changes that we learn from each situation. Now, I remember there was a time when I first started that we locked in and we stayed locked in, right? But now we're learning that you coordinate with county police officials and they tell you how to move. So you might find in different situations that on this end of the building, if the shooter's down here, they start to try and get people out of the building. So we're learning case by case. But what I really want to do is thank our district leadership, our chief of police at each school district. And I'm going to say this because I know each school district has their own. And I want to just really thank our law enforcement agencies. Yes, there's going to be some conversations about this wait time, but I want to say that there's things that maybe we don't know. But what I can tell you is, like here at Cherry Hill, we have our chief of school district police, Anthony Saporito, who does a great job of coordinating with school administrators. I heard on the news before I got on here tonight that the city of Camden had police officers just outside schools to make people feel safe, right? I know that the Cherry Hill Police Department had police officers out there. Now we can't continue at this pace, for the rest of the year and years to come, but they're there to make us know and let us know that they're here to support us. I can tell you also that our counselors, our school advocates, special partners are here to help the children, right? Because this is a scary thing for children here, let's say on the East Coast, even though it happened out there in Texas, because now they're afraid. So we're providing support. That's what I can say about this.
Okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of proactive measures.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Here's what's not being proactively. Tell me why our legislators are still allowing individuals to purchase military grade weapons.
Military.
Right. I mean, we're not talking about handguns. We're not talking about rifles for hunting. We're talking about military weapons. So that's where, we need to see some change.
So at the age of 18. I'm sorry, Mariana, go ahead.
No, I was just going to highlight the age too, 18 versus, 21 or later on.
Right.
And Dr. Toni, just a quick question, and this is just for me asking personally, but where were you when you heard that it was happening, and what did that incite in you? Like, because because of your position, I can see you just wanting to protect your kids, but where were you, and just share with us how you were feeling when you were hearing about students again losing their lives like this.
Here's the thing, when you're an educational administrator, you're so busy, right? So that was Tuesday. I was in school. I don't get to watch the news. Right. I don't get to hang on social media and see what's going on. That was also the day that we had an art show going on in the building in the evening. We had the National Honor Society for Art was being inducted. We also had a school board meeting where I and members of the central office administration and other administrators, we were presenting on C-Piece, which is cultural proficiency. So I didn't hear about it at all until I got to the board meeting, and the school board president said, let's have a moment of silence for the shooting. Here I go. I got my cell phone and I said, well, let's see what's going on. And so you're right. In that moment, while your heart is bleeding for those in Texas, I'm also thinking, and texting my family and saying, are my kids, how do they feel? Did they hear about this? So it was really shock. You don't think to look for this. And I don't really watch the news until I get in at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's so recent after the one we just.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked last week about that one, right?
Yeah. In Buffalo, right?
Yep. In Buffalo.
Yes. I mean, it's happening far too often. I am hoping that, our governmental officials see this as a sign to take action.
And, it's so disheartening, Toni, Dr. Toni, when you mentioned it, it's like the schools are doing everything that they know to do, humanly possible. So it seems, right? With the, combining with law enforcement and whatnot. But we're such a reactive society. Right. But there are things that we can put in place. Like I say, the schools and the law enforcement can only do but so much. The legislators have to do their part. The schools and law enforcement don't have anything to do with, those who get on the background have to be on a list so they can't get guns because of their mental health. You have to pass laws for that. you know, and for who can carry, you know, weaponry, etc., and the type of weaponry. It's just a sad situation that we put, you know, the right to have a gun over life. And let's not even talk about, I probably even shouldn't say this considering it, but being pro-life for an unborn child isn't that just as important for a child who's already born, and things that we could do. So if you don't want to have abortion, which is fine because pro-life, that's fine, but don't you want to not have the kids who are already outside the womb have every possibility to thrive? So therefore, let's change some of the gun laws. Still have your guns, but we don't need, civilians don't need AR-15s.
And see, that's what's so sad, because there was a representative that put on his Twitter page that he said, you know, elementary school shooting is an okay price to pay for me to have my Second Amendment right. And see, this is where it's you know, gets scary, because I had to go to my niece's school the other day, and this is the norm for us here, which is why for me it's like shell shock. I'm shell shocked to understand how he walked into a school door, because in order to go to my niece's school and drop her a pair of pants off, because she wore jeans and she wore jeans on the wrong day, so she needed her school pants, I had to buzz at the door. And before she let me in, but she asked me who I was, made sure I was on the list. And then when I went to open the door, I was grabbing the wrong door, and she said, not that door, the other door. So she also saw me. And I looked, I said, you can see me? And she laughed and said, yeah, we can see you. But see, this is normal for where I live. Camden, when I go to them schools in Camden and stuff, everything is locked up. And it's disheartening for me to believe that there are schools that still have blinders on to think that they might be untouchable and not have precautions. We're not saying prepare your kids to be murdered or make your kids panic, but precautionary measures at the doors.
So let me just kind of caution you and say that a lot of this is funding, right? So they may have had someone at the door, right?
Okay.
To sign people in, to check ID, things. I think schools across the country are doing that. But what I can tell you is just, I believe it was just some years ago here at Cherry Hill, they erected an entire structure where the vestibule is now secluded. You know, they had that cost a lot of money, and guess what, there were some who said it was not necessary, right? I can tell you in Dobbins we don't have that type of structure. We do have school police, or they don't even call them school police anymore, they're resource officers or safety officers. We have the metal detector, but guess what, if somebody came in that door with a gun, they shooting everybody else up and keeping on along their way, right? So we have some measures, but you know, it's really hard. I think we also need to see about some additional funding now for schools to have this security window where people cannot just walk back in.
Right.
Let me tell you something else. It's interesting that person came there. We need to encourage and educate our communities, right? Our parents, our visitors. Don't be so upset because someone asks you for ID, even though they know you're Johnny or Mary's mom. So let's just follow the process. Let's just ensure everyone's safety. It's like everyone was so upset when we had to go through the airport with all of these safety measures after 911. Well, guess what, parents? You have to know your child's either student ID. You have to have government official issued ID. We know who you are, but it's to keep everyone safe, because we can't pick and choose who we check for ID. So let's just go through the process. Let me just say something else to our children. And this is not for the elementary school children, because they don't usually do this, but I'm talking about the high school students. You open up the back door for your friends. You're putting a pebble in the door to keep it open so somebody can run to the store, go get a smoke and come back. You have to stop, because what you're doing now is you're putting everyone's life and safety in harm's way. You know what? We also had the issue with children ordering all of this Uber Eats and all of this delivery food. They know they're not supposed to do it. You know, if you have to pack a lunch to ensure your safety, if you have to eat the school lunch, which is provided, That's what you have to do during the day. Just because you have the money and you want to call somebody to bring something up, we really need to stop that, because you know what's going to happen? These folks are going to get wind of it. And so you know what they're going to do? They're going to act like they Uber Eats. They're going to put a little sticker in their window. They're going to drive up to the school.
Wow.
They're going to knock on the door. Somebody's going to they got a little bag in their hand, right? And some kid is going to let them in. And so we really have to encourage and ask our kids to stop doing this, because they're contributing to, you know, some of these unsafe practices.
And parents need to stop telling them, you just order food, you got money, this and that. You need to do the same thing, parents, to say, listen, what is the protocol of the school? Oh, they have lunch. If you ain't going to take your lunch, you're going to eat what's in that cafeteria. I don't want you off the property.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've gotten laid out by some parents when I just call them to say, hey, mom, could you please, I'm gonna let them eat in my office, but this will be the last time. And then the second time it happens, you know what I do? I say, listen, they can leave it here and they can take it with them till the end of the day. But I'm at a place right now, you know what? We're not even open the door. They can leave it right there on the step, and the child is not to go outside unless they have an early dismissal and their parent got it properly, because this is just making things too unsafe for our children. And we do need the parents not to call and deliver food for their children. It's just not safe.
And it happens quite a bit.
I didn't know that was a thing.
This happens all over. These young people calling their friends up. Oh, hey, bring me something to eat. You know, my aunt, my uncle, you know, they're going to the back door. This is happening all over.
Wow.
So have you guys created a policy? You know how when you do, and then you send it home to the parents to say, this is our new policy regarding, you know, school lunches or bringing food or whatever. Have you had to go so far as to do that, or is that in the works?
So here's the thing. No, it's not a policy, and it doesn't need to be a policy. All visitors are to come to the main entrance. That's a policy. Okay. All other doors are not to be open, right? But the very minute you have a student who opens a side door or a back door so that they can grab their food and you discipline them, now the parents are upset. That's a code violation. You're not supposed to open this other door. All visitors are supposed to come through the main entrance. And I'm sure that's at every school.
And it's sad because the parent should be getting the kid and saying, you know what? Give me your cell phone, because you know what the policy is, and you just risk the life of the principal, the teachers, but they don't.
And the other children, come on.
Everybody in there.
The whole other doors, can they be alarmed since they're not supposed to be used? So when you touch it, an alarm will go off, or when you try to go out.
So again, that's funding, right? So then you have to get an alarm to go off. You have to, that's additional money. And schools are really trying hard just to spend what they can to educate children, right? Now we have to do the Chromebooks and provide, you know, the educational tools that we need. How about children just stop it?
Right. Yeah.
You know, how about let's just follow the rules when we at school? We're here to go to school. They're providing your breakfast. They're providing your lunch. It may not be what you want, but guess what? You have the option to bring your lunch in with you.
And parents enforce the rules when the kids get home.
Yes.
So Dr. Toni, talk about, you know, with all of these proactive measures, the drills, et cetera, has that created a culture of fear in the student body, and maybe even with the faculty too, because you know what you're preparing for, that potential. So, you know, how does that work?
No, I don't believe it's creating a culture of fear. We've been doing fire drills for years, right? And who really walks around in fear that a fire is going to happen in the building, right? So if you are just preparing people, they're not going to be fearful. Matter of fact, they should be encouraged that if something should happen, we are really prepared for it. We know what to do. Now, it's interesting that years ago, when we used to do these drills, kids took it as a joke, right? And they would laugh, and you could hear them. You know, as an administrator, I have to walk down the halls and, you know, pull on doors to see if I could see people, find people. And you could tell who's in the room. At least they're taking it seriously now. They're accepting the feedback that we give, so that when we tell them, you know, when I walk by this room, please tell your class that I knew they were in there. And that's a sign for anyone that's going into a mass shooting. I can get some folks in this room.
Right.
Wow. And we were. Go ahead,
And I
Mariana.
would say,
Okay.
it's not creating a spirit of fear at the upper school level, but it
Right.
may be at the elementary, because the
Mhm.
children really don't understand what's
Right.
going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was going to highlight a bit that I wonder if some children take it as a joke. Others, it's like, okay, matter of fact, we got to do this.
Mhm.
And then others might be more, fearful if they're
Yeah.
more prone to like anxiety and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yes, right. So we have to deal with, children, because we do have some students who are lower functioning, who do not even understand. And even though you do it every month, you tell them every month, even for a fire drill, sometimes you have to walk them outside and tell them, hey, listen, this is a drill. This is what we do. But then when you come back around to it the next month, that their ability to process and understand or
Right.
remember is just not as the average child. So you just have
Right.
to take that time to understand, explain it to them.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I was telling them earlier, that's where it reminded me of when we had fire drills, growing up and going to school. And you joked and you laughed and you're with your friends and stuff. But then the moment there's actual smoke in there, then you start crying and ask for your mom and want to go home because now it's serious. But, you know, whew. Go
yeah,
ahead, Sharon.
I have speaking of the students in say the lower grades, when I have, because I treat adults and children, and the younger school, elementary and middle school ones, they are fearful, and they have a
Mhm.
lot of anxiety around these drills, although they know it's necessary, but it puts that fear in their mind of what they're dreading happening
Yes.
when they are actually doing the drills. And so but like you're saying, yes, the older students, the high school students, they have and not that, I'm sure there's some level of fear in all of us, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
but not like the younger kids because of their level of understanding. And so that brings me to a next thought, Dr. Toni. What about, it's not just about the students, like what about the faculty?
Hmm.
What are you guys doing as the adults who have to, one, care for the children, but you have to care for yourselves as well? How are you all dealing with it as adults?
So first off, I think if we've learned nothing else from COVID, we're learning self-care, and we're learning to take care of our mental health as well. And so this is just like another, if you talk about juggling, all these different things as educators,
Mhm.
this is just another thing we're throwing in there to keep on juggling. And so quite often, and I'm certain I've never been in this situation, but I'm sure when that happened, they did not think about themselves, all of the educators in the building. As much as you might laugh and joke and say, now, if something happened, I'm worrying about me. But
Right.
guess what? As an educator, you're really there to care about these kids. You go into protection mode, and
Mhm.
you really start to worry about those children. I think what we're doing, many of us, is we're having these conversations with children. We're trying to encourage them, to not purchase the guns, or to, if they're feeling uncomfortable, if they're feeling depressed, seek out help, because that's what we're spotting. These are not people in their right minds doing this, right? And
Mhm.
so if we can get
Got
these children young and
Um,
prepare them and teach them how to take care of their mental health,
mhm. Mhm.
maybe we are maybe saving someone from doing the next mass
Mhm.
shooting,
And
right?
I was curious about that. I know that you work with the high schoolers, but I'm wondering, are more adults starting to recognize? So one thing that we saw, at least about the last two, but quite a few others, is that they do tend to be those who were loners, right? They usually couldn't fit in. Some of them have a history of bullying and things like that. So I'm wondering, is there
Yes.
a shift for noticing students who are like that from a younger age, and to implement the supports they might need?
So I can't again speak to the elementary and middle. I can only speak to the high school. And what I can tell you, here at Cherry Hill West, we have what's called hashtag the West Way. And so just as a practice, as a who we are, it's about being kind, it's about being caring, it's about thinking about others. And one thing I can tell you that was truly amazing is we had some students who were I don't want to, label anyone, but they were in, let's say, our functional program who went with us, and so they didn't have the capacity, let's just say, to count their own money and to do things like that. But to see some of our best athletes, our popular kids, they just kind of took that. Hey, they hanging with me today.
Awesome.
We as chaperones, we thought we were going to have those children with us. We even told, those students, let's say the popular kids or whatever, you don't have to, do this.
Right.
No, we got it.
Wow.
It was just really a wonderful thing to see. So I can say that I'm not seeing all of that lonerness, and yes, you have those children who dress like goth, right? You have those who are a part of this. There are different people here at this high school, but everyone supports everyone. Yes, our children, fight. They get into disagreements and things like that, but it's not because of their differences. So we are very accepting here, and that's what I love the most is hashtag the West Way.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful to hear. Well, Dr. Toni, we don't want to end the conversation, but it is 7:33, and we know that you have a get together to get to. And
can I ask her one question though before she leaves?
Well, you have to ask her that. I'm not.
Go ahead. I'll take this one, but
it'll be real quick. Is there something that can be done that I would like to try and figure out how to get parents to the school to do a conversation about helping us to keep your kids safe in school? You see what I'm saying? And I know that's a stretch because parents are involved. They have a selective involvement. They select what they want to be involved with. But there's got to be a way that parents come there and then they can have that conversation with you about don't tell your kids to order food. Don't get mad if they do. And we're trying to keep your kids safe. Can you help us and work with us to do this? Because you don't want to get a call from the school because they let somebody in the back door and somebody was waiting behind them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I don't want to speak for anyone's parent.
Right.
I don't know that a parent would come out to talk about that. Right. What we try to do is in every message that we give, we throw in little things like that. Right. So before the senior trip, we had parents come because we had to give them the rules and regulations about the senior trip. So what we did was we squeezed in some other little tidbits while we had them.
Right.
When we had the freshman orientation, even at the beginning of the year, we threw in little tidbits like that. Now, I will say we have the spring concert going on right now. I don't know that would be an appropriate time for me to try and throw any of that out there. But every week I do my what's called community connections, and I share information like that.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there because it's, to me, part of it is the parents need to get more involved and stop acting like it's your fault that something happens when they never even engaged.
And, I do want to say, I want to be very clear. It's not all parents.
Right. Absolutely.
We have some wonderful PTAs. I love my West PTA. We have Zone PTA out here in Cherry Hill. They're all over it. They're on it. They support our young people. But I do hear you. We need to have all parents, even the hardest of working parents that don't have any time, respond to an email.
Right.
Read the connections. We do need to have greater parent involvement.
Yeah, because I've always felt the ones that didn't get involved were the ones that had the most to say. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. All right, Dr. Toni.
Thank you so much for joining us the second time. We so appreciate you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And you gave us a lot of information. I know a lot of stuff that you shared today. I was not aware of. And about especially that involvement with law enforcement and the school. And it sounds like your school and maybe even the district has a great relationship with the local police department. And that is so refreshing to hear. So keep up the good work, Dr.
Yes, Dr. Toni. Yes.
All right. Take care.
Have a great evening.
All right.
All right, ladies. So
man.
That was a good conversation.
That was good. And when you asked her questions, like, because we see it from our perspective,
Right.
and you ask her
But
something,
we don't have an inside perspective.
right? And when she was able to share, well, this is why, Rose. I mean, we got to be careful because there's finances involved in what you're talking about, and this and that. Because you see, in the schools that I'm used to going to, we've been dealing with violent situations forever.
Right.
So they have already been prepped to try to keep our kids safer. And then it just doesn't dawn on me, why ain't they safe too? Our kids, we might have, our schools have to keep our kids. Why ain't they? But you don't think about, they haven't dealt with all their lives what we've been dealing with as a lifestyle. So they don't see the need to do all of the things that we do because they're not like us down here. They're not involved in a lot of gangs, this and that, whatever. So they, like she said, they may never have gotten a budget to secure the school the way it needs to be, secured.
And so my thought on that is, I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Dr. Toni said, and I do agree that budget is an issue. However, in this age of mass,
I know what you're saying.
Killings, we can find money for anything we want to find money for. Look how much money we're sending over to Ukraine, and I have no problem with it. Don't get me wrong, right? But we need some things taken care of right here, domestically. Right. And our kids being safe in their schools should be number one priority. So whatever amount of money you have to spend it federal government, state government, local government, and make our schools as safe as they can be. We know crime is going to happen, but there are still some things that we can do legislatively, as well as securing the building by putting some funding in the districts that need it, for the ones that might not have it. So, and this is a thought that I would like for the you ladies to share your thoughts on. So, and I guess this is a big back, Rosie, off of what you were saying a little bit. And I don't know if it's just me because I haven't really looked at any research or anything like that, just in my brain. So in urban schools, right, and just like predominantly Black, Hispanic schools in urban environments, we don't have these mass shootings. And first of all, if I'm incorrect, let me know. But that's just kind of my thinking. We don't hear about that. Now, what we do is hear about is community shootings. You know what I mean? And in the urban schools, a lot of them, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of them that I know have metal detectors, right? And so in the schools that I've gone into because of doing therapy, sometimes I go into the schools. I went to one that had a metal detector. And some might have like buzz you in type of thing, but not all. And so I'm wondering if, again, in the urban environment, because we know, say, crime is high, but crime might not be high, that like gun violence. That's not high in school. It's high in the community. So what they have the metal detectors there because, well, it was in the community. We don't want it to spill over into school. That's just kind of my thinking. And because of what's going on in the world, hey, let's do this. So it's not rocket science to me. Let's put metal detectors in every school, right? But, and like Dr. Toni says, if someone gets past the door, it doesn't matter if you have a metal detector. If you get past the door, we shooting you all. But, if you can't get past that part, then it could potentially save something because bells and whistles are going off that you have something on you. But
and on that,
all schools have them. I just don't understand.
On that same note, Sharon, my old school, okay, when I went in there, the metal detectors were there along with officers. So it wasn't just a regular old security guard that I might have encountered when I was in high school. There were police officers there with the metal detectors. And like you said, half of the time it's just to keep kids from bringing knives in and, knives and stuff like that in. But they have beefed it up because the community, because of the type of violence that was in the community, they just wanted to make sure that they kept their kids safe by keeping people out that might have tried to come in with a weapon. And like you said, that's why it blows my mind when she said, the funding. What? You don't want to teach them and you don't want to protect them? You don't want to give them the funding to learn how they're supposed to learn and what they're supposed to learn, and then you don't want to keep them safe? I mean, you're just, but you're letting people sell weapons and guns and stuff like that. You have great funding. It's in the NRA. Fund it. If they want to sell guns to kill have mass shootings with these AR-15s and stuff, then take the money out of their coffers and start securing the schools that their gun right owners are going and shooting up.
Yeah, and a lot of the same people who would say things like that would want like all the teachers to be armed, right?
Right, that's not the answer.
They got past the cops. This young man got past the security there. It wasn't a whole lot of cops and stuff, but there was a few of them there protecting the school because they heard he was on his way running somewhere. So he already shot past the first defense, which was cops.
And why are we making teachers, or trying to carry weapons to protect the school?
They're supposed to teach our kids
to be educators, not police officers. And the federal government has the money. Because again,
they have it.
Find billions of dollars to go into space to protect Ukraine, to do this for a drug war, everything that we do, which is necessary. Don't get me wrong. We can find money to secure every school across the nation, and you can't tell me that we don't.
And they ain't finding it. They're just pulling it out of their socks. The government socks.
And our local business might not have the money, of course, but the federal government can give them the money.
They have it.
This is a crisis across America.
Right. It's not, and usually there's money for like sports and other things too, but safety is the most important thing, right?
Most important.
If kids will fear that, then it's hard to learn, right? Then it's nearly impossible to be able to truly like make connections with others if the fear of violence continues to increase. And it was great to hear from Dr. Toni that like not all the kids are fearful, right? Because also I'm sure we hear more from the stories of those who are.
Right.
But nonetheless, that is telling us that a lot of kids are experiencing violence-related fear going to school, and parents too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it may start. You may start seeing a mass exodus of parents wanting to homeschool or give their kids to somebody who does homeschooling because
parents are already doing that.
They're doing it because the thought of sending my kid to a place that's supposed to be, keep them safe, teach them, and then send them home with a little bit more education and safely, and finding out that they may not ever see their child again after they drop them off at school and stuff. I don't, it's.
And the thing is, as you all were saying, it's not just. I mean, we're talking about schools tonight, because of what just happened in Dr.
Right.
Yes, but it doesn't just happen in schools. It happens
Buffalo.
in the workplace, right? The non-school workplace,
supermarkets,
in churches, right? Supermarkets and concert events, places that hold a lot of people, stadiums, whatever. So it's like it can happen anywhere.
Exactly. And with the last one that we talked about in Buffalo, the armed officer was killed there too, right? So we have two recent incidents of seeing how just by arming the other citizens may not be the solution, because guess what? They're not saying like, guess what? I'm coming, take your gun out, right? So and with these arms, by the time they're like, shooting a few seconds, by the time someone can, reach out and grab their gun, a few people can be dead already, which is why addressing this issue of weapons are we allowing.
And along with that, the Buffalo officer that was killed, he shot the guy first.
Right, so he was body armor.
The guy had all of these, the vest and everything on, and a high-powered weapon. And once the officer shot him a couple times, once he started to pull his weapon out and commit the crime, he shot him a few times. made no kind of dent in that guy because he was already bulletproof vest, and the guy was able to turn around and kill that officer. So like you're saying, they can say all they want. All we need is officers and stuff. Officers are getting killed because you won't prevent somebody from walking in a place and buying an AR-15 assault weapon to go and kill somebody. It's just, it doesn't what's coming out of your mouth does not make sense. You got to arm the teachers and arm this and arm that. You got cops dying at these places.
And the point has been made that over 90% of the people, Americans, are for some form of gun reform. So that's the public. Our legislators, politicians, they work for us. So where is the problem, considering 90% of us are for some form of gun reform, and you work for us? So why do we keep voting in the people who aren't doing what it is that we want them to do, since they're working for us? It's not making sense.
Exactly, especially because, like you were saying in the beginning, Sharon, it's an issue that happens in this country only, right? And where I grew up, and there's a lot of other issues, there are plenty, right? And we're not saying that we don't love this country and there's not other more great things about US compared to others. But in this specific area, it doesn't happen in other places. And actually, a lot of other schools didn't necessarily take these precautions either. Like where I grew up, but it was a small village, we all knew each other. So anyone, I guess, could walk into school without much questioning, right? It was open. And nothing like that came. I had friends who, when things like that happen in the US, they message me and they're like, how does that happen? You know, and
right.
It's like I've never heard of anything like that prior to moving here. So this, I think, highlights that it's the guns. You know, we can do all
the guns.
Absolutely.
We can prepare as much as we want. But if the guy come prepared with a gun that can take anyone out in a few seconds, all of these preparations, I'm not sure they're going to be able to do a whole lot.
Right.
The thing that the guy who I sent you all, you know, behind the scenes in our social media, where did he say he was from? It's somewhere in Europe, but he said, but the greater of the place where he was from, Europe, the UK, they had that one incident where a shooter killed 16 people, 16 children at a school.
And that changed everything.
Since, and it was been, what, like 20 some years?
Yeah.
30 years or whatever.
And their government
changed the law about guns. That doesn't matter. They don't have to do anything with school security. They changed the law and they never had it again.
They weren't purchased. They weren't purchased by the any NRAs in that time. And they came together and said, we will never let this happen again. We will never let this happen again. That's what the government said. That's what the officials, that's what the congressmen and everybody said. We will never let this happen to our kids again.
And they care about their citizens.
They care.
You know,
it happened in New Zealand, right after the shooting in the synagogue, and that happened in a few other countries.
Wow. Yeah. Every country that had a mass shooting with an assault weapon broke it down, got rid of the assault weapons. I was watching, I can't remember her name, but she was a prime minister. She was on the Stephen Colbert show the other night. And she said when it happened there, they bought back all of the weapons. Everybody bought their weapons and they destroyed them. And she said, and we've never had another mass shooting. You know,
well, people get defensive, and like even now, right? I was seeing a lot of messages, and it's always the same posts floating around, but something along the lines of like, it's the evil heart doing this. It could be, if you take away the gun, it's going to be a knife, and so on, right? That tends to come up. Or
how many people are you going to kill with a knife? You might kill one or two, but we're talking about a magazine,
right?
A magazine that is killing 30 to 40 people in seconds.
And when the military, right, those same types of weapons are stored properly,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
There's a full protocol for that. And
Yep.
even at the NRA convention that's coming up, was it tomorrow? I don't know, this week.
This week, yeah.
They're not gonna have guns there either. So interesting point, right?
There's something, doesn't it?
Yes, says a lot.
But ladies, listen, our time is up. I wish we could
Yes.
continue the conversation, but it was been great with Dr. Toni. And of course, you ladies, I love you. I love you. I love you for joining me on this platform. Unfortunately, we have to have this conversation, and unfortunately, I'm sure we'll have to have it again.
Yes.
But we will, again, be prayerful, and not that's the only thing we can do. We need to put action behind our prayers. That's the problem. Without action, we're doing nothing. That equals what the problem needs. Prayers are necessary, but we have to have action behind those prayers. This is not magic.
Right. And because we've been praying for years.
Right. And so we have to have action. I mean, just like any other goal, you think of it, right? And then you write it down, and you pray about it, but then you put action behind it to make it happen. It's not rocket science. But we have to end there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, share the feed so others can hear the conversation, and click the notification bell so you'll know when we're on. Thank you for joining us. Join us next Thursday for another live episode of Race Matters, Thursdays at 7 p.m. God bless you. Have a God evening. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right, ladies. So if I can figure
You're
out.
still live.